Welcome to the Business Miracles Podcast. I'm Heather Dominick, founder of BusinessMiracles.com. Since 2010, I've been training highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders from around the globe to work less while making more impact and income by doing things differently. I'm so glad you've joined me. Listen in and get ready for a shift in the way you view yourself, your work, your life. A Business Miracle. This is A Course in Business Miracles, podcast episode 131, Lead with Self-Love. Tune in to learn a unique approach designed specifically for those of us who are highly sensitive and how this approach will support you in stepping into your highly sensitive strengths to make decisions more easily, more creatively, and more innovatively. This is the gateway into highly sensitive leadership and to true ultimate freedom. Self-love is rooted in honesty. We have to start being more honest with what we need and what we deserve and start serving that to ourselves. I don't think that loving yourself is a choice. I think that it's a decision that has to be made for survival. Quote from musician, singer, artist, activist Lizzo. What I would like to highlight from that quote is start serving that to ourselves. This speaks to one of the key pieces of a highly sensitive leadership journey, which is personal responsibility versus taking things personally. When we are in our highly sensitive shadows, untrained, under-functioning as highly sensitives, we walk around with wounds from our past, from others just not understanding who we were, who we are as highly sensitives, not understanding or knowing how to work with a child, a young adult, with a highly sensitive nervous system. And we want to demand of the world that we deserve to have our wounds respected. We hold the people in our current present life responsible for what did not happen in the past. We hold our partners responsible. We want to hold our children responsible. We want to hold our friends responsible, our family responsible, our colleagues responsible, our clients responsible, our mentor responsible, our coach team responsible, our training program responsible. And yet, self-love is rooted in honesty. We have to start being more honest with what we need, what we deserve, and start serving that to ourselves. And that is everything that highly sensitive leadership training is about. Back to the quote. I don't think that loving yourself is a choice. I think it's a decision that has to be made for survival. Soothing tends to be an unconscious decision. Nurture is a conscious decision that is made over and over and over again to be proactive in encouraging the growth or development of yourself as a highly sensitive entrepreneur and leader. It is a decision. Nurture is a decision of empowerment. It is a decision to start serving yourself. Therefore, an act of self-love. Self-love connected to consciousness. Self-love is regard for one's own well-being and happiness. chiefly considered as a desirable rather than a narcissistic characteristic. I take things personally. That is me operating from my narcissistic wounds, my highly sensitive shadow wounds. I take responsibility, personal responsibility, to start serving that to myself. That is regard for my own well-being and happiness, self-care. The practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health and well-being. Self-care without self-love is an act of coping, used as soothing, and more of a narcissistic action. Self-care from a place of self-love is creating. It is an aspect of building one's highly sensitive strengths and an act of personal responsibility. So, how do we go about this? How do we go about this act of self-love? And how is this an aspect of leadership? Cultivating leadership power as an act of self-love is done by consistently showing up. We put in place an act of consistently showing up consciously in order to break the cycle of complacency and operating on autopilot. It is an opportunity to challenge the mind, and particularly the ego mind, the fear-based part of the mind, that without that act of showing up to a place where you are challenged to think differently and operate differently, then the ego mind will do everything it can to have you operate from complacency and autopilot. And that doesn't matter if you're super productive in that place of complacency and autopilot, because productivity doesn't automatically equal self-love. And then therefore, productivity doesn't automatically equal leadership. All it equals is productivity. Checking things off the to-do list. So we show up into a space, a place, a community where you are called on, where you are consistently pulled forward into your future, where you are encouraged to show up as the highest version of your essential self as an act of self-love. By doing this, you're bolstering all of your highly sensitive strengths, but particularly the strengths of conscientiousness that we share as highly sensitives, and the strength of empathy, so that both of those strengths can really be going to work for you. Otherwise, conscientiousness, from a shadow perspective, falls into perfectionism, paralysis analysis, over responsibility. Empathy, from a shadow space, falls into people pleasing, overprotection. Self-love begins with being present enough within your own body to hear the guidance of your heart. and then to cultivate the courage of conviction to follow it. Because again, where's the ego mind going to try to bring you? It's going to bring you back to complacency. It's going to bring you back to autopilot. It's going to bring you back to past patterns. And it's going to bring you back to operating from your socialized self. All is an attempt to try to protect you and keep you safe. So it's one thing to connect in every week as an act of self-love to strengthen leadership by being equipped to tap into your strengths, hear the guidance of your heart. And then it's a whole nother ball of wax to have the courage of conviction to follow through on the guidance that you hear. So showing up is an act of self-love. It is also an act of kindness, being kind to yourself. And that's where self-love differentiates from self-care. Because your socialized mind probably wouldn't associate showing up as an act of self-care. Your ego mind is screaming right now, wait, where's my bubble bath? Wait, where's my hours on end where I get to journal and drink my herbal tea? Wait, where's my favorite pizza and Netflix? But self-love or self-care stemming from a place of self-love is going to look and feel very different than self-care as an act of soothing. Showing up is kindness in action. And then that kindness in action ripples out into all the ways that you show up. Suddenly there is kindness in places that perhaps you haven't experienced or associated kindness before. Kindness shows up in difficult conversations. Kindness shows up in selling conversations. Kindness shows up in marketing. Kindness shows up in leading your team. Not kindness as people pleasing, but kindness as leadership. So this is the gateway to highly sensitive leadership, self-love. And self-love is an act of privilege of agency. Back to Lizzo's quote. Start serving that to ourselves. Loving yourself is a choice, but more so, it's a decision that has to be made for survival. And decisions made consciously are privilege of agency. Decisions in service to your essential self. And here's the bomb I really want to drop. Self-love in service to your essential self is generational healing. Because we all carry within our cells, our cellular structure, patterns that have been passed down generation after generation after generation after generation. And rather than raging from a place of entitlement, why wasn't I done better for? I deserved better. Not that conversations with family of origin aren't helpful, powerful, and important, but ultimately, even if everyone in your family gave you everything that you wanted for healing and service to your wounds, at the end of the day, in order for the healing to really land, you would still need to do the work yourself. So the embracing of self-love as leadership not only will make you stronger as a highly sensitive, not only will it give you access to your essential self, allowing you to make decisions more easily, more creatively, more innovatively. And not only will it provide generational healing, it will give you true ultimate freedom. Thank you for being a part of this Business Miracles podcast episode and for beginning to dip your toe into the journey of highly sensitive leadership training. If you are ready to truly use your sensitivities as strengths in all parts of your work and life, I invite you to connect for a one-on-one chat. You will experience being deeply listened to, and together we'll get a sense of whether the highly sensitive leadership training programs are the best next step for you and your highly sensitive journey at this time. Just go to www.claritycall.com to schedule a conversation. We so look forward to connecting with you. Talk to you soon.